Sometimes you find that a film is looked at solely for its content without any regard to the style or manner in which the story is told. And after all, that basically is the art of the cinema.
Alfred Hitchcock was a director with one thing in mind: the audience. Everything he put on the screen was designed specifically to make your movie experience enjoyable. It was all designed to manipulate how you feel, part of a unified strategy to draw you into what the characters care about, to form an emotional connection. Just like a painter uses brushstrokes to convey feelings, Hitchcock painted the screen with actors' faces. He said it's all the little nuances of expression that tell you what the character is feeling. They must be ever so slight.
Well, my idea of a good actor is somebody who can do nothing well.
He trained his actors in minimalism, having them keep a blank expression on their face. This was so he could use the camera to create the emotion. Hitchcock's approach was to avoid simply capturing a conversation on film, which he referred to as photographs of people talking. Instead, he would watch the listening. It's the reaction to what's being said and isn't said that brings the audience in. Hitchcock said people don't always express their inner thoughts to one another. A conversation may be quite trivial, but often the eyes will reveal what a person thinks or needs. With the camera, he used differences in proximity to the actor's face to get the emotional impact he wanted. He often called this orchestration. Each close-up is saved for moments of emphasis. He can reveal nervousness or suspicion. Behind the actor shows denial. The side shows guilt. A high shot is objective or supernatural. Wide shots convey emotional distance between characters. The closer you get to an actor's face, the more emotion you'll get.
I know every shot and every angle, so I become, in a sense, when I'm shooting the picture, though maybe not so good as, a conductor conducting an orchestra without a score.
Tracking away can make a situation feel beyond anyone's control. Tracking from wide to close can find a hidden secret. But cutting from wide to close can give the audience a feeling of shock.
If it were music, it would be tremolos on the violin and suddenly a brass instrument, which is the big close-up.
While his camera orchestrates emotion, Hitchcock controlled the timing of events along the axis of shot frequency, or how long a shot stays on the screen before cutting away. Staying on a character's reaction and following them across the room can emphasize an emotion.
Oh, what am I to do?
Moving the camera to the next shot instead of cutting to it holds on to tension. A long stationary camera shot allows opposing forces to converge within the screen space. Fast editing is something even more impressionistic for Hitchcock. Fragmenting a moment into converging perspectives can stretch out a fast event. It can also evoke something not seen on the screen in the audience's imagination. The camera becomes Hitchcock's instrument, and its succession of shots, a symphony.
To sum it up, you are transferring the menace from the screen into the mind of the audience.
From his beginnings in silent film, Hitchcock believed in visual storytelling. In those days, there was no voice track, and the dialogue had to be shown with printed words on the screen. Filmmakers learned to tell the story with the camera so they could minimize the number of titles that would interrupt the action. He said, when we tell a story in cinema, we should resort to dialogue only when it's impossible to do otherwise. His roving camera uncovers objects in the room that add up to an idea. In Rear Window, we know Jeffries is injured and confined to a wheelchair on a hot day, and that he's a war photographer from a magazine.
In other words, we don't have pages to fill or pages from a typewriter to fill. We have a rectangular screen in a movie house.
Hitchcock used hands, feet, and objects as words in his cinematic language. Planted on the ground, feet give us a sense of place and safety, or often a lack of safety. Marnie's feet wobble when she loses control. In North by Northwest, the villain's feet fall over when he gets shot. Feet can also be a dramatic introduction to a character that'll make an important impact in the story. And feet can reveal personality differences between two characters. In Lifeboat, feet become involved in romantic embrace. Hands can show anxiety and shock, and most importantly, they interact with objects. Objects are everything in Hitchcock's storytelling language. They're the primary way that hands can drive the plot and interact with the story world. Often these objects are evidence of a crime and carry with them emotional guilt, such as the frozen leg of lamb in Lamb to the Slaughter. As Carl's hands touch and hold the murder weapon in revenge, we can feel his uneasiness. And then by adding eyes to those hands, feet, and objects, Hitchcock spells out a character's thought process, piecing together what he called a visual sentence. With one simple sentence, Sam sees a burlap sack. By adding a second thing for him to look at, Hitchcock could expand the idea that he wants to put the body into the burlap sack. You can make him look at one thing and look at another, he said. Without speaking, you can show the mind at work, comparing things. There's complete freedom, it's limitless.
You do a close-up of him, then you show what he is looking at. Then you cut back to the close-up and you see his reaction.
In the 1920s, Russian director Lev Kuleshov discovered what became known as the Kuleshov effect, where an actor's face seems to change emotion based on the shots around it. Hitchcock built upon this phenomenon and wove it into his visual language. Watch closely the reaction shots from Jimmy Stewart in Rear Window. In this version, we're showing him looking at Thorwald scolding a dog. Now we can replace the shot of the dog with Miss Torso. Same reaction shot of Jimmy Stewart. Suddenly, we perceive his thoughts differently. That's the power of Kuleshov. The emotion is portrayed less by acting and more with what Hitchcock called pure cinema.